When I was a kid, I made some really stupid decisions. And some of those decisions were related to video games.
Whoa, nice graphic!
There were some general bad decisions a lot of kids like me made, such as throwing out most of the cardboard boxes and plastic cases that enveloped our precious electronic entertainment software. Who cared if these cases helped our games fit on our shelves and would triple their value in the future? Just throw that shit in the fucking trash. But today I wanted to focus on a few really dumb decisions that I made in my childhood. All of the following events happened before I turned 13, 14 or so. When I was young, my family and I were traveling and we stopped by one of my parents' old friend's house. They had 2 kids. They started arguing about something. I don't remember what it was about, maybe the deep philosophical questions found in Shrek the Third. Now back then, I carried my PlayStation games with me disc only in a disc carrying case. These kids started chasing each other like lunatics, and one of them ended up knocking over my carrying case and stepping on my copy of Gex. I really liked Gex, and when you're a kid and you don't have much money of your own to spend, your video games feel pretty irreplaceable. Thankfully, their mom was really nice about the situation and apologized and promised to take me over to a local used game store to buy me a replacement copy. Alas, they did not have a copy of my precious Gex game available. So instead, I ended up choosing to replace Gex with Glover and Motorhead on the PlayStation 1. Now back in my day, we didn't have pocket-sized cellular devices to check on game quality. We had to judge that shit based on the cover art, and those games looked like they might be fun. Unfortunately, Motorhead was just about as generic as it gets when it comes to racing games. But hey, Glover was known for being a pretty solid hidden gem of a platformer. On Nintendo 64, the PS1 version was a buggy, sloppy mess of a game, and I hated it! Our next story is related to the merriest time of the year, Christmas.
The Christmas tree's on fire!
My mom asked me if she could consult with my cousins to help with picking out games for me as gifts. I decided to give them the benefit of the doubt and said yes, while I love my cousins dearly. I should have known that saying yes was a bad idea. Instead of recommending to my mom a game that they thought I might like, they ended up picking games that they just wanted to play when they came over to my house. When my cousins were young, I would try to encourage playing a wide variety of games, but for a while they insisted on playing LEGO Star Wars over and 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 over again. To be clear, LEGO Star Wars is a good game, but they played it so much when visiting that my brain was beginning to melt. The games they ended up choosing were LEGO Star Wars: The Complete Saga on Wii and SpongeBob Drawn to Life on DS. While I did begrudgingly decide to keep LEGO Star Wars because I didn't own the second game, why the fuck would I want SpongeBob Drawn to Life on DS? Thankfully, my mom kept the receipts just in case, and I was able to get a better second game that Christmas. Next up, we have a classic story of naivete and pure overzealousness. Back in around 2009, I was really starting to get interested in video game collecting thanks to YouTube channels like Pete Dorr and some others. I started realizing that some of my video games could be rarer than others, and that they could potentially hold value well past their release date. So at this point, I was always keeping an eye out for what games could be considered rare or hard to find at the time. When I was online, I noticed that people kept mentioning a game on DS called Clubhouse Games. Apparently, due to a low initial print run, prices for the game skyrocketed well past $40 in 2008. Now imagine my excitement when I go to the store and find a copy of Clubhouse Games, one of the rare DS games, for only $20. Wow, what a steal! I was lucky that day and my mom was allowing me to pick a game out that night, and I was totally sure that it just had to be the rare one. My mom was understandably confused as to why I'd picked this game of all things, but she got it for me nonetheless. I was now the proud owner of Clubhouse Games on the DS. Which was a video game. It wasn't particularly interesting in any way, shape, or form, but who cares? It's rare! Likely surprising no one but myself, the game instantly dropped like a rock in value as soon as Nintendo reprinted the game in 2009. Of course, little did I know I was only even able to find a copy of the game in the store because it was the reprint. Needless to say, it was then and there that I learned that it's stupid to try and predict the rarity of a very recently released game, especially. And that, especially when you're a kid, it's just best to buy the games you know for a fact you'd actually enjoy playing. And now, folks, it's time for the worst of the worst. The dumbest gaming-related decision I ever made as a kid. Do you remember Wii Fit? It sure existed, didn't it? Well, for some reason, when it came out, I just had to have it. How else would I know whether or not I was obese? Of course, I didn't have the money to buy the game, so I had the genius idea of selling my Super Nintendo and my Sega Genesis and all of my games for a grand total of $80. Just enough money to buy Wii Fit. Now, to be fair, at the time, this wouldn't have been a horrible idea to sell some older games towards a newer, better game, but this was Wii Fit. I would have been better off investing the money into Blockbuster, honestly. I sacrificed classics like Super Mario World, Donkey Kong Country, and Sonic 2 for Wii Fit, a game that ended up collecting dust after the first week. I did eventually get those consoles back, but until then, the feelings of regret were palpable. So there you have it, folks. Those were some of the worst mistakes I ever made as a child. Now, please excuse me while I contemplate the inevitable mistakes I'll continue to make into adult life.
You're a wasted face. You're a sad